The Gainesville Times is on TikTok.
That's right, we're on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. Find us at Gainesville Times or G Times News to get the latest about what's going on in Hall County. Reach our listeners with your brand right here on Taken Too Soon. If you're interested in being a part of the show as a sponsor, email our team at marketing@gainesvilletimes.com to get more information.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on the Taken Too Soon podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or positions of the hosts or contributors. This podcast deals with mature topics that may not be suitable for all listeners. Material heard on the Taken Too Soon podcast is intended for adult listeners. Listener discretion is advised. In the last episode of Taken Too Soon, we looked at how Hall County ruled out Elaine's two most recent boyfriends, Billy Millwood III and Jeremiah, as possible persons of interest in her death.
We also discussed a story from a sex worker we are calling Katie, which was given to Hall County. Katie's account described a man who was in the area that Elaine went missing from and the bad intentions he appeared to have.
In this episode, we'll dive into some of the other theories that have arisen over the last 25 years. If Elaine's tragic end wasn't at the hands of someone she knew, could she have encountered a stranger with bad intentions? Was her being at a payphone by herself late at night enough of an opening for a crime of opportunity?
A crime of opportunity is defined as a crime that is committed without planning when the perpetrator sees that they have the chance to commit the act at the moment and seizes it. Such acts have little or no premeditation.
Perhaps someone was looking for just such an opportunity on September 20th, 1999.
And there was Elaine standing at 411 weighing under 100 pounds in a gas station parking lot all by herself using the payphone late at night.
So in this episode, we plan to discuss a few more theories behind who might have seized an opportunity to do the unspeakable based on stories and suspicions Elaine's friends and family have contemplated for the past 25 years. The first theory we'll look into is what we're calling the bad law enforcement theory. There are several aspects revolving around Elaine's death which have led some of her friends and family to become suspicious of bad law enforcement.
Some of the facts of Elaine's case have led some family and friends to believe that whoever was responsible for Elaine's death might have been someone connected to law enforcement. The fact that is most glaring for Elaine's family and friends is that Elaine's body was found just over the Gwinnett-Hall County line. It seemed very odd to them.
When asked whether Elaine frequented Gwinnett County or knew anyone in Gwinnett County, Elaine's family and friends have emphatically stated that they knew of no reason why her body was found in Gwinnett County. According to her family and friends, Elaine did not visit Gwinnett County often, nor did she have any close friends who lived in the area.
So, when her body was discovered just one road over the Hall County line in the woods of an industrial park in Gwinnett County, several of her close friends and family members couldn't believe it. You had said earlier that Gwinnett County wasn't a place that she frequented, and it wasn't a place that she would really go. So how big a surprise was it that that's where her body was found?
It was a huge surprise because it was right over the Hall County line.
We didn't know. We never heard of that. I mean, we used to go to the auction some down there in that area, but, we really didn't know the area.
It just wasn't someplace she went, and in turn, it didn't make a lot of sense to them. That confusion led some of them to believe that perhaps bad law enforcement might have had a hand in Elaine's death.
Yeah, it's kind of like law official. That's what went through my mind. Because, if it was a Hall County law officer, then they would know it would automatically be a different jurisdiction. And by the guy that saw the car and run the VIN number and it came back not on file, was the same one that came to the house that did the police report. So that's always been a big question mark. And he was kind of a tall guy, and you would think, looking in at a VIN number, he should have saw keys in an ignition.
Today, with the vast amount of true crime programming that is available, many people are aware that if you commit a murder in one jurisdiction and dump a body in another jurisdiction, then you have effectively muddied the waters of that investigation.
Take, for example, serial killer Israel Keyes. Israel Keyes was an American serial killer, bank robber, arsonist, kidnapper, and sex offender.
He murdered at least 3 people, is suspected of murdering between 11 and 20 people, and committed dozens of felonies across the United States from July 2001 to February 2012. Keyes was known to kidnap and murder people in one state and dump their body in another state to confuse law enforcement and to take advantage of the fact that most law enforcement agencies at the time did not have strong interagency communication.
By muddying the waters of jurisdiction, Keyes was able to continue killing for several years before finally being caught. Back in 1999, the knowledge that murdering someone in one jurisdiction and dumping their body in another to confuse law enforcement wasn't of the household variety like it is today. However, if you worked for law enforcement, that knowledge would be commonplace.
The concept of data sharing may sound ultra-modern, but it's really a very old practice. Before there was internet and instant access to information for all types, there were wanted posters displayed in post offices and other public buildings.
That may have been primitive when compared to present-day methods, but it worked to put thousands of criminal fugitives in jail. People were eager to put a desperado in jail, especially if there was a reward for turning them in. The first U.S. effort to share data between law enforcement organizations was in 1967 with the implementation of the National Crime Information Center by the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Before NCIC, a police officer making a traffic stop had no way of knowing that his violator was driving a stolen car or that the car was used in a violent armed robbery unless that information arose from his own employer's investigations. NCIC housed databases of stolen vehicles and other property, wanted persons, missing persons, and the first national database of people with criminal records. The data came from the same agencies that used it.
Now that we can reference nearly any topic on a whim and receive results instantly, data sharing is much more efficient. Law enforcement agencies assist one another by making their data available to other departments and keeping the citizens they serve informed, making them partners in the effort to suppress crime.
But often in the 90s, law enforcement agencies were still territorial about certain investigations and tended to exclude other agencies from those investigations based on operational boundaries. It is that kind of insider knowledge that made some of Elaine's friends and family question whether a law enforcement officer was involved in her death.
But me personally, I said a very long time ago that it was a dirty cop. And then when I read some of the police reports in the report that you let me, I felt very differently about that because now I feel like even more so that I feel like it's a dirty cop.
Now, there is no strong evidence to suggest that there is much merit to this theory, but there are several things that stuck out to the Taken Too Soon team that, at the very least, can be considered circumstantial evidence that someone connected to law enforcement could have committed this crime. With that in mind, let's explore the bad law enforcement theory through what we know about Elaine's case.
One thing that Elaine's friends told us was that Elaine wasn't one who was oblivious to what was going on around her. We were told that if Elaine had felt unsafe or believed something strange was going on, she would have mentioned it to Billy while the two were talking on the phone.
If somebody was in that parking lot, and I put this on, and I know all three of you are right there with me, if there was someone in that parking lot that made that woman, and I'm going to call her a woman because she's earned that right, she would have told him. She would have told Billy.
Elaine's friends believed that if Elaine had noticed someone around her during her phone call with Billy, that she would have said something to tell him about it.
Unless, of course, that someone was a person she thought could be trusted, like a law enforcement officer or a security guard.
If she was scared or something made her uncomfortable, she wasn't going to lay down and take it. She was going to stand there and fight for herself.
Yeah.
And stand there and say, hey, I'm uncomfortable. This person's here. But if it was a cop or a security guard that she was comfortable with, she would have never done that.
Probably wouldn't have doubted it.
Her guard would have actually been down and she would have never acknowledged it.
There are also a couple of things that former investigator Marty Nix told us that seemed unusual about the case, such as one of the investigators working Elaine's case also being part-time security at Zack's food rack, the place where she was last seen alive. He also lived in the trailer park located directly behind Zack's.
And it just so happens that one of the investigators, Carl Dietrich, he was a retired, I think, Dade County police officer, and he worked with us as model police officer, just a super police officer. But he lived directly behind Zack's food rack, and he worked as a security at Zack's food rack but during, I think until, I'm almost positive, 10:30 is when his shift ended and they would close. And, and he would just, directly behind Zack's food racks where he lived. And so he was really familiar with the operations of that business, the comings and goings. And so he was a good person to put on that case from the get-go.
Not only did that particular investigator work part-time security for the convenience store, he also was a person who put in the video cassette for its security cameras on the night Elaine went missing.
And Carl Dietrich was actually the one that placed the security tape in the machine the night that Elaine went missing. So we were pretty confident in the chain of custody. And so we had a good tape that, I remember assigning that strictly, and I can't remember which investigator was in charge of taking that tape, documenting it, and trying to, based on other statement, okay, this car passed at this time. This vehicle passed at this time. Actually, a patrol deputy passed at this time, and would go back and put the pieces together.
Now, when Marty Nix told us this information, he was doing so to show that the chain of custody was solid. But these facts have been mulled over by Elaine's friends and family for years, and for some, it seems a bit suspicious. Especially when combined with where Elaine's body was found and the suspicions about why she was left just over the Hall-Gwinnett County line.
On top of that, some of Elaine's friends and family think it is odd that law enforcement only watched the video surveillance tape from Zack's the night Elaine went missing until midnight, when it is clear from phone records that Elaine and Billy did not hang up with each other until just after midnight.
The detective that was supposed to be watching, overlooking Zack's food rack at night, why did he stop the video camera at 12 o'clock? Why didn't you go further than that? Because the other officer says he found her car at 1:45 to 2 o'clock. But then in them reports, there's 2 o'clock, 2:15, and 2:30. What time actually? Because that's 4 different times that you've said.
It seems that watching an extra 15 to 20 minutes of the tape might have produced more evidence law enforcement could have worked with to try and solve this case. Was it not known at that time? Had you not gotten the call records at that time that said that she was on the phone till 12:09?
I really can't answer that question.
Right.
I don't know what's in, I can't speak for his statement.
Although this theory is based mostly on the suspicions and not any hard evidence, for some who knew Elaine, it is still a possibility that they can't seem to shake to this day.
I respect the police officers, and they're, there are there's good and bad and everything. There's good and bad and everything, and I've said it since 99, and I'll say it now. I feel like it's a dirty cop.
But the bad law enforcement theory is just one of several that have popped up over the 25 years since Elaine's tragic end.
Can't get enough of Taken Too Soon? Check out bonus content exclusive to Times subscribers at GainesvilleTimes.com/TakenTooSoon. See photos, read old articles, review documents, and watch videos from our interviews. Subscribe today to dive deeper into this cold case mystery. Find the bonus content link in the show notes. And now back to the show.
Another theory that has come up during our investigation repeatedly is that whoever killed Elaine did so as a crime of opportunity, and many believe it could have been one of the many truckers who utilized the parking area at Zack's food rack. Zack's food rack, even to this day, is an isolated place where truckers can park to rest and get off the road for a while.
I don't know why I always believed that story about the truck drivers. And then I think that was the main one that stuck out to me, because there was always trucks there anyway, so.
And that fact alone has been the basis for some believing that the perpetrator of this heinous act was a trucker who happened upon Elaine and seized on an opportunity to commit the crime because she was by herself on a payphone so late at night.
Which leads us to a trucker theory, which rose its head over 11 years ago. In our discussion of this theory, we will refer to the two individuals at the center of it as Person 1 and Person 2. After an open source investigation into social media posts, we stumbled across a comment which in part read,
quote, "That is my cousin and my uncle. I have heard rumors, and when I started hearing this, I called the investigator. He never got back to me. I don't understand why she and her family can't get justice. They have always creeped me out, and Person 2 fondled me when we was kids, and I didn't understand what was going on. I don't have anything to do with them, but I have been told by person two's daughter she knew where a piece of her clothing was buried. Why ain't they acted on that?
My heart just breaks to think about her and how she was done, and it makes me sick to think I know somebody capable of that. Anyways, I have heard lots more, and I will talk to whoever asks, but like I said, it's rumors, and me and myself can't do anything to help her, but I can tell what has been told to me from family and others. My mama and her boyfriend know her parents, and they are friends, so when my mom started telling me things she had found out from this one and that one, I told her she better call and tell something to somebody, or I would. That is what I did, but it obviously didn't help, but I want her family to know I would do anything to help bring her killer or killers to justice." End quote.
Further investigation led us to a similar post which read, quote, "Anyways, the lowlife is my bio dad. I've told her parents, I've told the detective, but there's not enough evidence, so please, for the love of God, stop saying we aren't speaking up, because we have. There is nothing more I can fucking do. I want her to have the justice she deserves just as much as the next person." End quote.
After seeing these two posts, we inquired more from Elaine's family and friends about whether they had heard about these rumors and accusations from Person 1 and Person 2's family members. We quickly learned that yes, family and friends of Elaine had heard these rumors. In fact, they had more to tell about the rumor that Person 1 and Person 2 were involved in Elaine's abduction and death.
The story goes like this. Allegedly, Person 1 and Person 2 jumped on an opportunity to take advantage of Elaine on the night of September 20th, 1999. Person 1 was and still is a trucker who lived close to Zack's food rack off Candler Highway and was known to frequent the establishment.
Apparently, suspicions began to arise among Person 1 and Person 2's family members after Person 2 gifted a pair of white sneakers to one relative and a necklace with a unique design to another relative on the Christmas after Elaine's death. Becky next confirmed that the unique design matched a necklace of Elaine's, but she wasn't sure that Elaine was wearing that particular necklace on the night she went missing.
They came to a candlelight, and because they've been talking to us for years, telling us that
Person 2.
And his father
Person 1.
was the ones that did it because he got mad at one of his daughters and told her if she didn't do whatever he wanted her to do, that she might end up like Elaine Nix did. And a lot of his family members have talked to us.
Furthermore, there were even rumors that linked Person 1 and Person 2 to Elaine's missing clothing. Supposedly, the two men buried some of Elaine's clothing near Weaver Lake, not far from where they lived. Other rumors have Person 1 and Person 2 burying some of Elaine's clothing on their property.
The rumors continued by claiming that Person 1, who was a truck driver, detailed his own truck despite the company he worked for offering the service to all their drivers for free.
This created even more suspicion for those family members that believed Person 1 and Person 2 had indeed been involved in Elaine's death.
And with all these family members coming to us about
Person 1 and Person 2. Person 1.
Being a truck driver, someone wrote on the side of his truck, something Slayer. And one of the neighbors called me and she said, "Good job." She thought I did it. I said, "No, I didn't do that. I wouldn't go around his house, you know." But then they got it cleaned off. But I don't know. It's a strange family.
We tried to reach out to the family members of Person 1 and Person 2 who posted these comments and even inquired about their stories through an open records request with the Gwinnett County Cold Case Unit. Despite many attempts, we were unable to contact either of Person 1 or Person 2's family members. And as we have mentioned before, our open records request with the Gwinnett County Cold Case Unit was denied.
Therefore, we are unable to confirm whether Person 1 or Person 2 were ever persons of interest in Gwinnett County's homicide investigation. What we do know is that there are many who believe that Person 1 and Person 2 were involved in Elaine's death. We also know that part of the first post we read in this episode has some merit to it, as Person 2 was sentenced in 2012 to 4 years in prison on attempted child molestation. According to a court transcript, authorities found a letter written by Person 2 about sexual fantasies involving his daughter and some of her cousins.
The prosecutor clarified there were no allegations of physical contact at the time of the sentence. He is currently in prison after having his probation revoked from a sex offender registry violation.
With all that being said, based on the information in the post and the other stories we have heard about Person 1 and Person 2, we can only guess that law enforcement was given this information and investigated it. But even that we can't say with certainty, as we do not have access to Gwinnett County's case file.
But the detective from Gwinnett said he went to his house one day and he was sitting on the porch.
Person one.
And said he had a shotgun on the porch with him. And he didn't want to talk to the detective, so the detective left.
However, the trucker theory, as we have dubbed it, is at the very least plausible.
Why would family members make up a story like this? Why would they be so adamant that their family members were involved in such a horrible crime? As we don't know the dynamics involved within the family, we are unable to answer those questions. But in the list of theories that we have accumulated since beginning our investigation into Elaine's case, this one feels like the real deal.
Perhaps Gwinnett County looked into the accusations and cleared person one and person two from being persons of interest. But the details of this rumor aren't completely far-fetched and, in our opinion, deserve to be investigated further by law enforcement.
The next theory about Elaine's death wasn't something that we sought out. Instead, it came to us in the form of a tip sent to one of our personal Facebook pages.
Hey, true crime junkies of North Georgia, are you aware of what's going on around you? Find out by signing up for our free newsletters from the Times. You'll get local news in your inbox daily, including at least one free article a day about what's happening in Hall County. And now back to the show.
The tip came from a person we'll refer to as Rory. The message sent from Rory read, quote, "I have a theory on the Elaine Nix case. Please call me. I've tried to speak to the cops and her family," end quote.
We contacted Rory and were told that he used to work with an individual we'll call Jay back in 1999. The two were employees at one of the businesses located in the industrial park where Elaine's body was discovered on September 29th, 1999.
According to Rory, Jay was intimately familiar with the area in which Elaine's body was discovered, as the two used to smoke weed during their breaks from work at that exact location. Rory continued to talk about how he felt that Jay was incapable of distinguishing between right and wrong based on interactions he had had with Jay back in 1999.
He mentioned that Jay drove a dark green Ford Ranger pickup truck, not dissimilar to the one mentioned in newspaper articles as being seen on video surveillance from Zack's the night Elaine went missing. And lastly, he stated that Jay lived near Zack's at the time of Elaine's disappearance and death.
Rory stated that he had an epiphany a few years back, given his recollections of Jay, that Jay might have been involved. Quote, "I have lost a lot of sleep over the years and have tried to tell anyone that would listen about Jay.
But every time I contacted the police, they tried to turn it around on me, asking me why I'm so interested in the case," end quote. Rory said in our phone call with him.
With the limited tools at our disposal to investigate Rory's claims, we were unable to substantiate his claims about Jay.
But we did share the information given to us by Rory with Sergeant Micah Hegwood, the Gwinnett County Cold Case Unit Supervisor.
Our last theory about Elaine's death revolves around another friend of Jennifer Boyd's, who was murdered on the same day that Elaine's body was discovered 24 years later. That friend was Amy LaFakis.
For those not familiar with LaFakis' case, LaFakis was reported missing in Brookhaven on September 28, 2023. Her remains were discovered 48 hours later in a field near a construction site on Drowning Creek Road in Tequila.
After interviewing LaFakis' family and others close to her, Brookhaven police officers went to her ex-boyfriend's house to ask him about her disappearance. The ex-boyfriend, Brandon Weininger, was asked to go to police headquarters where he was interviewed by detectives.
During the interview, the 43-year-old Weininger made several statements that the detectives proved to be false, and one day after LaFakis was reported missing, charged Weininger with giving false statements and tampering with evidence. The next day, a body was found in Gwinnett County.
The following day, Gwinnett County police confirmed that the body they found was LaFakis's and announced an additional charge against Weininger, charging him with concealing the death of another.
8 days later, Weininger was formally accused of malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault in LaFakis' death. LaFakis was shown to have died from blunt force trauma to the head and asphyxia.
According to the arrest warrants for Weininger, Gwinnett County police believe that he suffocated LaFakis and landed a deadly blow to her head before hiding her body and lying about her disappearance.
Weininger was accused of killing LaFakis between 3 a.m. and 8 a.m. on September 29, 2023. Exactly 24 years after the body of Elaine Nix was found in a Beaufort industrial park.
So how did these two heinous crimes fit together? Jennifer Boyd had mentioned the murder of LaFakis to us in one of our early interviews with her.
This last year was a little hard because another one of my friends was murdered on the same day. So I got the call that she was missing while we were at dinner before Elaine's memorial. So I had to apologize to everybody and be like, hey, look, I've got this going on. My friend's missing. And then she was found on October 3rd.
At first, it seemed a tragic coincidence for Jennifer that two of her friends shared a date which signified either their murder or when their body was found. But it was what Jennifer told us next that blew our minds. Weininger was an old friend of Billy Millwood III.
Because he was friends with Billy, and they hung out. He went to school with us. And
That's when the coincidences began to pile up in our minds. In the case of Elaine, suffocation and asphyxia could not be ruled out. Amy Lefakis had been suffocated. In the case of Elaine, her body was found in a wooded area near an industrial park in Gwinnett County. Amy Lefakis was found near a construction site in Gwinnett County. There were definite similarities between the two cases, but it was Jennifer's statement that Weininger was an old friend of Billy's that really made us pause.
Did that mean that Elaine knew Weininger? If so, had she seen him at Zack's while on the phone with Billy, or just after she had hung up with him? Would she have been worried, or would she have felt comfortable because she did know him?
While there is absolutely no evidence that Weininger was involved in Elaine's death, for Jennifer, who has heard her share of theories on what happened to Elaine over the past 25 years, it is not out of the realm of possibility.
I know her family definitely suspects it, because I have a great support system outside of my group of friends. People that didn't even know Elaine, are very supportive, and they're really pushing, once he gets moved to Gwinnett County, to have Gwinnett County question him. And because, if he got away with it once, who's to say he didn't think he could do it again?
Weininger remains in DeKalb County Jail and was most recently denied bond on August 19th. He was indicted in DeKalb County on first-degree burglary, computer trespass, and false statements. The district attorney's office dismissed the evidence tampering and kidnapping charges after the indictment. Quote, although sufficient evidence exists to support the issuance of the warrants, the state denies to prosecute the charges referenced above, end quote, Assistant District Attorney Whitney Reeves wrote in a January 3rd order. Weininger was denied bond on August 19, 2024. The order for denial of bond cited, quote, the defendant poses a significant threat or danger to a person, the community, or to property in the community. The defendant poses a significant risk to committing a felony pending trial. The defendant poses a significant risk of intimidating witnesses or otherwise obstructing the administration of justice, and that the defendant shall have no contact with the victim's family, end quote, as the reasons why the bond was denied. A pretrial date for the indictment against Weininger has been set for October 15, 2024. The murder case in Gwinnett County has not been indicted.
In our next episode, we'll take a look at the final theory that we uncovered while investigating Elaine's death, when we delve into one of the oddest twists her case has taken over the course of the 25 years that it has been unsolved. Do you have any information you'd like us to look at regarding Elaine's case?
If so, please email tips to Greg Finan at Gainesville Times. That's GregFinan at GainesvilleTimes.com.
Check out bonus content exclusive to Times subscribers at GainesvilleTimes.com/taken-too-soon. See photos, read old articles, review documents, and watch videos from our interviews. Subscribe today to dive deeper into this cold case mystery. Find the bonus content link in the show notes.
The music in this podcast was by Ben Ingram.
If you like the Taken Too Soon podcast, be sure to give us a rating wherever you listen.
Thanks for listening. This has been Taken Too Soon, the Elaine Nix story.